for the meeting for the Public Works to order. Yes, Mr. Loren. Okay. Roll call, please.
Hushane,
Here.
Nate will be just here shortly. Tom,
Here.
Lewis.
Here.
And Mike.
Here.
Okay, public comment? No public comment. Item 4, approval of 10/11/21 Public Work and Utility Committee minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Second.
Discussion? None, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it. Item 5, acknowledge water and sewer permit in applications 7621 Stonefield Trail, Rothschild, Wisconsin. Where is this?
It's off of Weston Avenue, just a little east of Volkman,
Okay,
north side of Weston Avenue.
so it provides sewer and water?
Yeah, it's part of the annexed area in Rothschild that we provide water and sewer service to.
Okay,
There's only a couple lots left on that street, I think, right?
Yeah, I don't know, that's probably,
5, 6.
yeah. You know, where the White Spire, kind of condo apartments are, this road's just the next block east of there.
okay, what's your wishes?
I'll make a motion to acknowledge water and sewer permit applications.
Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it, thank you. Item referred to committee by village boards. I don't believe we have any of that.
No.
Item 6. Utility rates and street spending compensation.
Comparisons, yeah.
Comparison.
Yep.
All right,
So I guess at I probably did that there. The last month's meeting, I kind of gave an overview of our budget, and I know a couple people had asked, kind of where do we fall in line with other people? What are our comparables to other communities and other entities around? So figured I'd put that together so we know where we're at, especially as we start talking about other budgetary impacts moving forward. So I guess before, again, we look at the numbers, our budgets, are there to maintain the physical assets. So again, our 118 miles of road, our 50 pieces of equipment plus 110, 111 miles of water main, 103 miles of sanitary sewer, 71 miles of storm sewer. And then kind of a review of the budgets there. The water utility next year is an estimated loss of 129,000. Sanitary sewer utility is about 303,000 in a negative net income. And the stormwater utility is got a positive about 29,000. So, we kind of briefly mentioned we'll be looking at some small rate increases for water and sanitary sewer in 2022.
do we have any idea how much it is approximately? That increases,
Yeah, so I'll be.
like a percentage, 1%, half a percent?
Yeah, so if you give me about 10 minutes, we'll get through that part.
I didn't see it, okay, go
I
ahead.
know, so there was an attachment, I guess the presentation I was still kind of tweaking a little bit today, so I'll send it back out again after the meeting like I did last week or last month. So again, if we were to move forward with our rate increases, how do we compare? So the next slides have kind of where we're at based on a 12,000 gallon quarterly bill. It's roughly the average size bill for a residential family in the village of Weston. Some people are at 10,000, some people are at 14,000, but 12,000 seem to be about kind of that middle ground there. So this one's a little hard to see, but right now for 12,000 gallons, the water side of your bill is $55 per quarter. We're the third lowest as far as water utilities in the central Wisconsin area. Graphically, it looks like this. Brokaw, Village of Maine is on the far right. Town Over Mountain, Stevens Point are the two that are less than us, and then there's a big group of kind of the Cronenwetters, Plovers, Merrills, Wassa, Hatley, Schofield, kind of just there. And there's kind of a trend that as the community gets smaller, the rates go up.
I don't know, Brokaw and Nova Zarvan next to it, I think they have a different problem. That's why they just put the new well in there, they put the new system in there.
Yeah.
They're not buying water from Wausau, so I don't know if they can compare us.
No, I guess this data is just to show you where we are at, you know, how much it costs to buy water from our community as compared to other places around our spot of the state. So if we were looking at, I guess, Trustee Feeney is here at 436. So I guess if we were to look at a 3% rate increase, our average for a 12,000 gallon bill would go from $55 to $56.65, which keeps us in that same spot, still between Stevens Point and Cronenwetter as far as what that bill would look like. So the needle doesn't move much on that. We still stay in the same spot with our kind of neighboring communities. For a sewer bill, looking at that side of the utility, again, for a 12,000 gallon quarterly bill, we're at $74.40. So 1, 2, 3, 4, about fifth kind of lowest in the area. Here we're between Rothschild and Marshfield. The average rate in the area is about just under $79. So we're just under that average with the sewer bill. Now Marshfield's the median community in our area, so kind of right there in the middle. Again, graphically, we're in that middle group. And a 3% rate increase, average will go from $74.40 to $76.63. So again, we don't change where we're at in our kind of the sequence. We're still in between Rothschild and Marshfield, right there at the average essentially of the group there, cost-wise. I'm not sure how the town of Vermountain is as low as they are, but I'd like to, yeah, I'd like to try to figure that out. Because, yeah, I mean, they kind of skew the data. Everybody else, seems to, $60 and above seems to be about where everybody is. So I'm not quite sure how that works.
They're the only community that's not incorporated. Would that have any effect on it, or?
Yeah, I don't know if somehow they get tax levy to offset or, yeah, that could be as a township instead of a.
That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah. So I think sanitary districts can levy taxes.
Mhm.
So maybe something to look at, yes. Try to figure that one out. So then looking at a combined water and sewer bill, we're fourth in between Cronenwetter and Stevens Point there at about $129 for a combined bill. The average is $147, so we're $18 less than kind of the average bill.
Why is Mosinee so high?
I think that a lot of that stems from their water.
Okay.
So
I think they have a small population, huge expense with these new wells they put in there.
Okay.
So we want to get that big number among 4,000 people. You get everybody become higher.
yeah, and then they also within the past 10 years, they got rid of their own wastewater treatment plant and joined Remote Metro. So as part of that, they had to pay for all their new piping to connect to the system. So I'm guessing there's some major capital costs there that they're paying back as well. So I think they're looking at a large cost to either redo their own treatment plant or a big cost to join the regional one too, so.
Because there was several miles they had put in that piping and lift
Yeah.
stations and stuff, so.
Correct. Yeah,
That they have to bring it all the way to Cedar Creek. That's just up there crossing fiber.
yeah, so they went all the way down Old Business 51 essentially.
Yep.
So, Okay, yeah, so the combined water sewer rates were kind of right around the 129 mark. Again, kind of graphically showing we're on the lower half. Again, the 3% increase would take us from the 129.4 to 133.28. Again, still in between Corona Water and Stevens Point on there. We don't change, and then about $16, or not 16, $12 less than the average.
What's the minimum you charge? How many gallons is the minimum? Let's say you don't use any water.
You get a base, you get a base charge no matter what, just for
How
being,
many gallon? Is there a number in there?
for 0 gallons. If you're hooked up to the system and you're an active customer, you get a base charge. Off the top of my head, I don't know what that is.
$33 for sewer, $24 for water, $17.49 for your fire protection, and $12.50 for stormwater.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so, so all those are considered in looking at a 12,000 gallon bill.
Right.
The fire protection, the base water, base sewer, and then your consumption charge. So, I mean, some communities have very low base charges and high consumption charges. Others have a high base charge, low consumption. You know, you could dissect these, but it seems like no two rates are the same. That's why trying to find a comparable volume is, I guess, the best way, in my opinion, to look at it, because everybody's got different ways that their total charge or rate is calculated. So I guess a 3% rate would add about $3.88 a quarter. Essentially doesn't change where we are in comparison to the neighbors. We're still the 4th lowest combined 12,000 gallon quarterly rate. You know, and still about $14.62 less than the average bill. So we're still, I guess even with a small increase, I think we'd still be providing pretty good value to our residents and our ratepayers. So that was the water sewer side. As we go into stormwater, I don't expect you to see these numbers, but so we get data from the American Public Works Association. They collect all the stormwater utility rates throughout the state. Stormwater rates are set up a little differently. They're based on equivalent runoff units. Here in the village of Weston, we use 3,338 square feet per equivalent residential unit. So when we calculate, so a single family home is just 1 ERU, whether you've got a 2,000 square foot home or a 1,000 square foot home, you pay 1 ERU. However, our businesses, any commercial properties, they get calculated based on that 3,338 square foot method. So if they have 100,000 square feet of impervious surface, that you divide that by the 3,338 to get the total number of ERUs that they pay in. So if you look through that table, there's ranges where the minimum ERU size is 1,000 square feet in the state, and the maximum is 43,500 in the state. The average is about 4,400, so it's, we're kind of close there on what we charge. As far as how we calculate the size of the ERU, our rate of $50 per unit is under the statewide average of $63.33. And I tried to figure out how it compares, kind of dollar per square foot. So we charge about 5 thousandths of a cent per square foot per ERU. Statewide average is about 2/100ths of a cent. So we're slightly under the statewide average of cost per square foot there, as far as how the commercial properties are calculated. So I'll just head into street maintenance. So the way we get the data for that is from the Wisconsin Policy Forum and also the DOT. We can get certain numbers like the population, street miles, and street spending per capita. And then we make a couple calculations as far as then total street spending, which is the population times spending per capita. And then the spending per road mile is just street spending divided by street mile. So here we are compared to our 15 central Wisconsin communities. So we're the red spike, kind of on the low end. And we got Cronenwetter and Rhinelander below us, and then Rapids, Plover, Shawano, as you head off to the right. So if we drill into what those numbers actually are. So we're at about $159 per capita, which equates then to about $20,991 per mile is spent by the village of Weston. I know sometimes people would, this data is, as it's published with the per capita rate, at times that would look a little skewed, but per capita, we're the fourth lowest, or just spending per mile, we're the third lowest. So in comparison with our regional partners or regional communities, we're on the low end of this. We're about $5,400 less per mile spent than the average community in central Wisconsin. With our 118 miles of roadway, I think if we were to want to be in the middle, it'd be about $675,000 more would need to be spent to kind of be average in the area. So another way to look at it is to try to grab other communities with the same population or similar population. So this is based on communities in the state with 12,500 to 17,500 people. We're kind of in that middle to lower third of the data. So we're seventh lowest in spending per mile, but I guess if you looked at it per capita, that's where we're 20th, or third highest. I guess one thing to note is our 118 road miles is the highest in our population group. There's some communities like Shorewood who has, a population that's close to us, but they only have 28 miles of roadway. So sometimes when the statistics get presented, you kind of have to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples to a certain extent, because if we had, a fifth of the miles, we definitely wouldn't have to spend as much. But we have to make sure we're taking care of all of our roads, not just select ones out in the community. So, but even at that, we're still about $3,500 less per mile than the average community. I believe that's about $425,000 less than what the average would be per year. So in general, what do these comparisons show? I guess my takeaway is our rates, our spending are in the lower half to lower third of our comparable or other communities in the state. Looking at making some small increases to our utility rates would have very little impact as far as how we compare to other communities. I know other people are also, looking at rate increases too. It's not like they're setting their rate and they're staying there for, forever. They're going to be increasing as well. I know a question we always try to answer is, what is that service level that we're trying to provide? What are we trying to match? We'd love to provide more services, have the highest quality of everything, but there's a cost to that. Additionally, our systems are still fairly young, so we do have some residual benefit of not having some of the same maintenance issues that older systems have. I was at a Public Works conference last week, Thursday, Friday, and one of the big things coming out with a lot of the water infrastructure bills is lead service line replacements. We don't have lead service lines in the village of Weston. We're too new for that to happen. But, Schofield, Wausau, older communities have those issues that they need to maintain. For the most part, our infrastructure is 50 years old or newer. And a lot of our streets are, in that, less than 30-year-old range. So we do have some residual benefit of having a younger system, but again, how much of that? It's hard to know. And then just every community has different revenue restrictions. So even if we want to spend more, is it even possible? Could we even, raise rates or raise our levy to, justify what it is we're trying to reach? I know that's a message that our finance director always tells us is, that's great that another community can spend that much, but they get this much more in state shared revenue and transportation aids and everything else. So it's a dream that we'd be able to spend that much because it's just, we don't have the revenue to offset it. But I guess in general, we are on the, I think a pretty good value for what we provide. But I guess I don't have any other general, real conclusion except, we'll keep making sure we're providing quality services at a affordable rate. So I think that's the end of what I have, unless you guys have any other questions. Yep.
I just want to say thank you for putting this together. I think it was, at least for me, very informative. It's just nice to have, and I understand the inexactness and difficulty of trying to make all those comparisons equivalent. But having said that, it's nice to see it. And my only other comment is this something that the village board would have an interest in putting in the newsletter? Or, I think it might be a consideration.
Yeah, I mean, again, I was at a conference last week, Thursday, Friday, and a big message was as public works professionals, we do a really poor job of telling people what it is we do and what their taxes, what their rates are actually paying for. People pay their taxes and they complain or whatever about what it is that, we're not doing. So I think, we need to definitely do a better job of kind of celebrating some of our successes and things that we do well.
I would even say, even if you, got stuff onto the website, you could point to that and stuff. I know myself, even before I was in this role, that's where I would always go to look to find out some of that information, and it always gives you a better perspective. Kind of like we looked at the map of projects that are coming up or projects that have been done, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, they get around to stuff. So it gives you some good perspective.
Yeah. No, and that's kind of my goal is as we, maybe try to figure out what we can do next month, but create these educational kind of pieces that we can link up on the website and, let residents learn more from. So.
Especially when I can see the comparisons, what other local communities are paying, and that kind of, you can actually see it, then it kind of hits home what they're paying for, so.
Yeah, you could chop this into three or four slides and throw them together if you really wanted to. I know a lot of people would be fascinated by it.
Sure. Okay.
Number 17.
What was that? Number 7? I think Teresa was gonna talk about that one.
Okay.
Section-
Explanation of the tax certification on water bills.
I thought this would be a good time to introduce this, and I don't know if any of you know about the tax certification. One time a year, the state of Wisconsin allows us to go after those that are 90 days or older on their bill as of 10/31. So we start this process on 10/1, where we print out anybody that's gonna be 90 days or older, we print out this report. We start calling on 10/1, introduce them, tell them about the tax certification. If they don't have that past due amount paid by October 31st, on November 1st, we add a 10% penalty, a tax certification penalty for them not paying their bill. Then they have until on November 14th to pay the past due amount and their tax penalty. If they don't pay by the 14th, that entire amount plus the tax certification penalty rolls onto their taxes. And that's only once a year that we're allowed to do that. So I just thought I'd throw these numbers out because we started this year on our report for 10/1 that we ran. We had 452 outstanding customers with a total of 86,403.68 for outstanding utility bills.
I'm sorry, how much?
86,403.68. So in 2 weeks, we had 2 weeks to call these people. We do have access to a credit card machine right here in the office, so that is significant because these people sometimes will just say, oh, I forgot about the bill, and we will take their payment right away. So in those 2 weeks, we ran another report on 10/15. And on 10/15, we were down to 245 customers that were outstanding yet, with only 34,501.35 left outstanding. So we collected 51,902.33 in 2 weeks. And that's just by being on the phone. I mean, we were on the phone 8 hours a day. So then we send out, if they haven't paid by 10/15, we send out a letter. And that letter outlines what they have outstanding and what that tax certification penalty will be if they don't pay by November 1st. So we make additional calls this whole time, so that it's a month and a half of doing nothing but on the phone. So the report that we ran on 10/31, we were down to 101 customers that were outstanding and only 12,650.35 that was outstanding in dues. So we collected from the 1st of October all the way to the 31st, we basically collected 73,000 roughly dollars in outstanding utility bills. Last year, it's just in comparison, last year, we rolled over for 2020, 22,991.62, and that was outstanding utility bills plus tax certification penalties. So we're already well below that from last year.
Well done.
Go ahead.
Do we have any, or do we have a large amount of, people that are usually late or at risk for the tax, certification process?
Half of the outstanding amounts are usually tenants.
Okay,
And we also get the landlords involved, and they are a big part of this, because if we call the landlord after we call the tenants, and the tenants just kind of go, I'll get the money when I can, because the landlord, in essence, gets these bills.
right.
It goes on their tax roll. So they help us because they go to the tenant and they say, no, you gotta have this payment made. So they also help us get some of this premium paid.
Now, if somebody really don't have it to pay, and we increase it 10% and another 10%, he doesn't have it. What do we do with it?
It goes to the tax roll.
And
There's-
how we do that? How
Yeah.
we,
Well, they have, but all of these have not set up payment plans, have not even made an attempt of $20 a month or $20 every other month. These are ones that have not made anything towards their bill. And COVID did not help this last year. That's what a lot of this was. We had some people that didn't pay for 90 days. Well, 90 days is a long time and not even a $10 attempt. So this is the ones that if I've got somebody on a payment plan that they're making $40 a month and they have lost their jobs, that kind of thing, I take them off. I physically can take them off the tax roll. So those individuals can keep on making their payments. So we don't penalize them because they lost their job. These are people that haven't made an attempt.
as long as we consider that, because that's important.
Yeah, we do try to work with people, you know, and at least get a minimum payment going, you know, 'cause otherwise, you know, we also have a fairly strong shut-off program that we utilize throughout, you know, the year. So, you know, what are you, non-payment for 90 days?
Yep.
You know, we do shut people off, you know, we turn off their water at the curb until they come pay. So we don't like doing that. So, you know, we've tried to make people understand that if you can't pay your full amount, that's fine. Let's figure out what amount you can pay and get you back on track so that we're not having to go out and shut off your water.
On average, I probably have 115 people on a payment plan. Just 115 different customers. So I work with everybody no matter if both of them lost their jobs and their unemployment check doesn't come in for 3 weeks, I wait those 3 weeks and then we do a partial payment, $25 or $30, just to get them until they can get back working.
Okay, anybody else have a question?
Thanks for all the hard work of everybody in the office to get that squared away.
There's only me and Sarah who work.
All right, thank you. Number 8, resolution, Weston School final resolution.
Yeah, so I didn't have a chance before I had to leave last week, to get the full engineers report together. But I did have the calculations done. So overall, the Weston School project came in under, estimate by about 161,748, of which, the general fund portion of it came in about 344,852 under, and the 3 utilities, kind of ranged there from 52,000 to almost 70,000 for the water utility being over budget. But I guess in the grand scheme of things, when you're making our estimates, 2 years before the project begins, I think we did pretty good there. I think a big part of the general fund coming in under, I think was just, we had a good number on the installation of the base course that we provide as the village. And then also, there was some sidewalk removed on that project, not a huge substantial amount, just on those cul-de-sac streets. But then as far as the assessments go, the original assessment for the driveway approach, $7.70 per square foot. The final calculated amount is $6.57 cents per square foot. So it's about 15% less than the original estimate. So I guess in general, people should be seeing about a final bill that's about 15% less than what we initially told them. There's a couple that added a driveway that didn't have a driveway initially. And, but for the most part, it's a reduction for the average person.
It's a
So,
bid contract, isn't it?
What was that?
These contracts. We bid these projects,
correct, yeah, the project was bid.
and then the contractor came below his bid? How did he manage?
So our initial calculation is based on before we have bids. Like it's the engineer's estimate as far as what this project is going to cost.
Okay,
Yep. So when we have our initial assessment hearing, it's based on the engineer's estimate. And then we take the engineer's estimate and then the actual calculated final cost of the project. And whichever is less is what is the final build amount.
so what's the final amount? $15 less?
So it's about 15% less.
15% less?
So the final, here, the final calculated assessments is $75,991 that'll be collected. I don't know if I included the original. The original was about 80,000. So so we're about $5,000 less than what was initially estimated. But a lot of that just came into unit prices being a little less, or even some of the quantities. Like I said, some people wanted a slightly wider driveway or a second driveway paved. Or
But the contractor got what he did.
the contractor got, yes. I mean, but my estimate was $4 a square foot for concrete, and they bid $3.80.
So that's 20 cents.
So that's where some of that comes in, and then, we always carry a contingency initially, in the estimate as well. So at the end, there is no contingency. It's the actual engineer's costs for, their time for design and construction observation, not the estimated amounts, so.
Okay. Any question? Everybody understand what he's doing, right? All right,
I think Lauren has a question.
thank you.
I have a
Quick question.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, I'm sorry.
you mentioned in your report that there's still some stuff that they may come back and do in the spring. Is that covered or is there gonna be charges for that?
That's the Crescent Acres project.
Yes, you're correct, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
You can erase that if you'd like.
He usually holds some money back. If it's not finished, it's not finished, you know?
Yeah, and that's why we wait on the assessments until the project is deemed 100% complete. There's still some warranty work with a little bit of the concrete and some trees that died this summer. But there's no cost to the village for that work, so, you know, as far as our books are concerned, the project's closed out and paid for.
How long is that warranty up? When was that completion date?
It was May of 20, I forget the exact date that we declared it, you know, project final completion. But
right?
it was this past May. So it's a year warranty from that completion date, so.
We will have throughout this next winter then too.
Correct, yeah. So then May of 22, we'll follow up with anything else that has sprung up.
All right. Staff report number 9, CIP update. Okay.
So I went over the Weston School there. The Crestwood Acres project, all the paving is complete. Ditch restoration is also done. So mailboxes are in and mail delivery should go back to the side of the road within the next day or two, unless Luis can tell me they did it today.
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So then, yeah, in the spring, tree planting and then any touch-up restoration work will take place, or whatever it doesn't grow. So the Birch Street Reconstruction Project, I got a couple items in the packet there that we'll talk about in more detail as they come up. Weston Avenue projects, last week, we received the 30% plans from AECom for Weston Ave from X to J. We had a follow-up meeting with them just to go over a couple questions they had prior to holding a public information meeting in December. The Weston Ave Alderson to Birch project, the grant for the local road improvement program was submitted and preliminary design is complete. So we'll be waiting on whether or not we receive a grant on that project before we move ahead further on design there.
How much you ask for?
It's about $1 million. I think overall it's about a $2 million project, and then it's a 50-50 grant. And then it's also split half with the village of Rothschild and half with the village of Weston. So our net cost would be about $500,000 on a $2 million project.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
They favor the project when it's just in two community and they work together.
Yeah, so these next two are also projects that working on getting applications in by this Friday for that same program. Although both Ross Avenue projects will be looking at, there's two competitive grant programs right now that the state has. It's the local road discretionary program and the local road supplemental program. So the discretionary program historically has always been there. That's a 50-50 grant. The supplemental program was, this is the second time the state's had it. Last time around, it was touted as the 90-10 grant program where 90% would be state funded, 10% would be local funded. Not quite how it ended up being carried out. But this time around, they put more money in the pot and hopefully it'll come out as a 90-10. But for both Ross Ave projects, Riverbend to Paul's, that's a shared project with the town of Weston. They indicated they'd be willing to go to an 80-20. 80% state, 20% local. So we'll be having that kind of restriction on there that we would not accept the grant if it was less than 80%. And then similarly, Ross Avenue from Metro Pine Street to Alderson Street is a joint project with the city of Schofield. That'd be a similar thing where the city of Schofield has indicated 80% would kind of be their max or their minimum that they'd be able to accept from the state, just due to their own borrowing and fiscal constraints. So again, so 80% state funded, 20% local funded. So on these joint projects, that ends up being essentially 10% Village of Weston funded, 10% our neighboring community, and 80% the state. So, hopefully we'll hit on, one or more of those, grant applications, and then with the, recent passage, I believe, of the, infrastructure bill, we'll see what else that means for, other, street and, I guess utility grant funding moving forward, so. I guess the public safety building, there's still a few things looking at as far as additional upgrades there. The municipal center project is coming along on schedule. Seems like if you drive past it daily, new walls or something else is going up. It's pretty impressive watching them unload and place those precast panels. It makes a wall go up very quickly, so. And, the Ryan Street Apache Lane project, advanced construction did start the river bore for the sanitary force main last week. They should be getting that pulled through this week, and then they'll start on the water main and should have the boring portion of the project wrapped up this month. And Pember started on the Tanya Tricia lift station. And we received official notice from the PSC that wells 7 and 8 have been approved. So we'll be getting those contract documents out for bidding now for the well drilling and moving forward with that project so it can begin in spring.
Good. Question. There's a lot of projects,
Yeah, it is.
lots of projects. All right,
A lot of balls in the air.
thank you. Utility operation update?
Yeah, another busy month for our operators with our diggers tickets, work orders. Last month, I guess I'll jump down to our kind of wells and tower stuff. We had another bad sample at our Cary well. We had one back in, I think it was early August, that we ended up having to get kind of a shock chlorination going. So it might be time to maybe see if we need to have kind of a better rehab of that well. I think we last rehabbed it not that long ago, maybe early 2019. I'll have to check.
What was high?
What's that?
What was high, the sample?
Well, it tested positive for coliform.
Okay.
So, and that's in the raw sample, so, that's before any treatment. But we have to take some check samples. So, in August, we actually had a second bad sample, so then we had to take the well down, get on Rothschild's water. So we don't want to do that, so might have to take a little proactive approach here and see if we can get it cleaned up. So I've been in contact with some people to maybe take a peek at getting in there. Hopefully we can maybe get it into next year before we have to get on Rothschild's water again for this year.
Just a note on that, the second sample did come back safe.
Yes.
So,
So we didn't have to take the well offline or anything, so.
Could be the sampling procedure, or than that, what you do different, the sample comes safe.
you take them, when the first one comes back bad, usually it's about a day later, you go take the second one, and
Right,
so the second one came back safe, so
I mean, our one back in August, it was kind of a thought potentially with a lot of the rains we had. Maybe it was something that it was the source water, there might have been something in it that got elevated up into there. This one, I'm not sure. It's, the first sample was bad, second one was good, so.
and sample procedure is the same, and
Yep, same person taking the samples, so I don't know if we got a false positive or, but that's kind of why you have that check too, just to make sure you're not
I
doing
would check
something.
the procedure still,
Yep.
just to make sure the decontamination is okay before we take a sample.
Yeah.
Okay,
So, some other items on there, we had a few repairs the guys took care of at a couple of our well sites at our Alta Verde and Mesker wells. We do have a meter shortage that we kind of dipped back into some of our old meters. That looks like I didn't put the name in. I think they're the old Census SR meters that we're doing some tests on just to see if we have any homes that are coming online that need a meter, we may have to put a temporary meter in there for the time being till a lot of the electronics parts are backlogged. We had a few months, 6 months now. It's a ways away, so hopefully we can get some of our meters in, sooner than later. And as Michael mentioned, we do conduct water shutoffs. We did have some, that we shut off back in early October. I think that was only maybe 10, and with that, usually if you show up, knock on the door, let them know you're gonna shut it off, they make their way down and take care of it, so we don't have to go back and turn it back on, so. We did have a few locations where we replaced some valves. We had 2 locations over in Rothschild that we replaced some of the valves that were kind of part of our water main flushing for our annual unidirectional flushing. We had 2 locations in Weston as well that we changed out some valves. On the hydrant side of things, last year, we did kind of retrofit some hydrants to upgrade from our 2 nozzle to a 3 nozzle. We had 5 locations that we did a couple weeks ago, might have been last week. Maybe it was November.
Yeah.
Jumped in a little bit. We were able to get our sanitary sewer system finished up. We had to wait on a few locations back in our interceptor because we had to do some clearing, so we had to wait till the oak wilt season was able to be, so we could do some cutting. Had to pull a couple pumps. Heritage Hills had an issue, as well as our Kathleen lift station had an issue where we had just actually installed a couple new pumps. One of the pumps was bad, so they're actually rebuilding it and sending it back to us. Our guys were able to get all of our lift stations cleaned. We like to get those all cleaned up prior to the cold hitting. Our big vac truck doesn't like to be out in the cold all the time, so. We also did some televising. We kind of wanted to get an idea of where our main needs are for some of our future lining projects. So we did televise quite a bit over in the annexed area, the kind of south side of 29, west of Alderson. We have probably a lot of dollars that could be spent over in that area in the next few years to probably do some sewer lining, so. Other than that, just some of our miscellaneous projects, monthly stuff, entering all of our DNR data, getting together some RFPs yet to get some hydrant painting. The manhole stuff will be coming out next year. Michael touched on most of our contract work here. Then just kind of the back end customers added. We had about 56 new customers for the month. And then you guys can see the pumping data we had in lift station hours and wastewater flows, so.
Question? Thank you. Street operation?
Yeah, winter's coming, hopefully not this week because it'd be nice if it would stay in the 60s again. I'll wait for Michael to scroll, I apologize. We're still on the leaf and brush pickup. That should end this week, Thursday. The sewer and water guys vacuumed, cleaned the stormwater inlets. We found 5 of them that had pipe repairs that had to be made. One was out on Schofield Avenue. The guys were there today by Zinzert Street where a chunk of the box fell in. So we had to open the road up a little bit, pour some concrete in there, and it was had to set up a tripod because it's a confined space. Go down and go. So we're trying to wind that stuff up. Hopefully we get pretty much all of our street stuff done. Trying to get some streets swept yet too. Ryan Street's kind of winding down a little bit. It's not quite as busy out at the recycling center as it was earlier. Stockpiles, we managed to use up most of our sand stockpile that we had at Crestwood. So we kind of graded off the site. If you get a chance to stop out there, you see that where the mountain of sand was, it's gone now. And what we've done is moved, instead of hauling the brush down below, we're just gonna leave it up top. And when Kafka comes and grinds for us, we'll have everything up top. So down below, we use that as a stockpile site for all the leaves that come in and grass. And we turn that into compost. I'm gonna probably talk to Bobble, Tito Incorporated. They grind the stuff they get so it composts out faster. This last year we sold, I think it was almost $5,000 worth of compost to Olson Paving. I talked to Suze Olson, and I think there was another one, Tito, and PGA asked them if they were interested. So we actually, the compost, the leaves that we're getting in rows, and then we roll them over it takes a while for them to break down. There were 5 long rows sitting from the past, so I'm gonna see what the cost is on the grinding of it. Cause it's a commodity evidently. Olson's interested in buying more. They actually are purchasing the city of Wassa's leaves now. They bale them up in the city. They do one fall pickup in the city of Wassa, and they actually put it out for bid to haul the bales. They get like when I was there, it was like 11 cents a bale. Olson had a 5-year contract to take the bales, but they're looking for that stuff. So we'll see where it goes. If the cost is gonna be prohibitive to grind it, then we'll just keep rolling in piles. We're gonna actually do a little shouldering tomorrow. There was an overlay on Heron Street from Weston Avenue south to Shorey. We've got to shoulder that. We're running her right to the wire this year as far as our outside work. Some signal pole boxes we fixed. We actually took some of these cast iron castings off of Westview Boulevard when it was rebuilt, and we actually ended up reusing them out on Camp Phillips Road right by Schofield Avenue, and the other one was over on Schofield Avenue by Birch, which worked out pretty good. Chopped the road out. It was kind of fun. It was a little different project. Jim Plata, who retired from the village here, was our sign person. John Yonker has taken over the job now, and very proactive person, very thorough. Jim did a great job too, but John's kind of bringing us up to speed on the signing issue and as far as replacing signs and stuff. So next year, you'll probably see us more of that happening and then more painting of stop bars and crosswalks and stuff. We're gonna try and get more proactive. There's a lot of need for that. The mowing's pretty much wrapped up for the year. Up on Weston Avenue, we've got approximately 1/3 of an acre site that we had cleared the trees earlier this spring, stumped and grubbed the thing out, and then topsoiled it with some salvage topsoil we had and got grass growing up there. So we've got another snow dump that's right. It's on Weston Avenue on the north side, and it would be west of Camp Phillips Road. It's right next to where the natural gas station is up there. So it's just on the east side of the hospital. It's a future water tower site up there too, but it's gonna help give us another spot for a snow dump. We're gonna be rigging our trucks this week. Hopefully we can get everything else done. Jason Leonard, who was our shop foreman, left. So some of the guys on the street crew are gonna be helping out in the shop for the time being with wrenching. Brian Schmidt is still here. He's a mechanic. What else we got going on? Storms for inlets and that, we'll be wrapping that up this week. We've got some trees to clean up. The roads have all been graded. The gravel roads are pretty much up to shape right now. So if it does start to get a little more moisture and freezes down, we'll be sitting pretty good for the winter. What else we got done? Okay, contractor work. Farner did some striping for us on crosswalks on some of the roads that were overlaid this year and a couple of the major intersections down by the DC Everest High School. And then as far as the projects go, I'll start with the bridge. Farner is pretty much done with it. We've been getting calls and questions about the ride of the bridge. When they poured the concrete, well, to start with, the bridge project right now, they sent me quantities on it. Originally, we estimated the cost, when it came in under bid at around it was over $90,000. The quantities pretty much doubled on the deck repair. So they sent me the final quantities, and right now I haven't gone through everything with them. It's at about $175,000 because of the full depth repairs on the south end. The ride of the bridge, I brought along, this is a piece of the old epoxy. Norcon originally did the epoxy overlay on the bridge, okay? Double layer. When Farner poured the patches, I don't know what's exactly going on. I talked to Mike Frodo from Farner. Some of them I think were kept a little bit low. The ride isn't terrible. You won't, I mean, in my eyes, I guess, coming from, it's not perfect like a new bridge deck would be, but you won't spill your coffee driving over it. If you drive down Fuller Street, you would get close to spilling your coffee in places. Is it a perfect job? No. The job they did on it as far as the deck repairs that were needed, finding the hollow spots in the deck, I think was good. Tom Hardinger is the bridge supervisor for DOT. I think I talked about him last time. I'm gonna have Tom ask him if he'd just take a run on it once too and see what his thoughts are, because he's dealt with a lot of deck repairs, just like when they did the deck repairs out there. Once you open that bridge up, you can sound it all you want with a hammer. Until you start taking that epoxy overlay, you can't get a good sound on it. I think I told you that last time. So we'll see what can be done. I'm waiting to hear back from Farner. This year, nothing more this winter as far as to try and address the epoxy overlay. Could they put another overlay in some of those spots, put one more layer of epoxy and flatten it out a little more so maybe the ride would be better? That's a question that they need to answer for us. But I'm gonna wait to hear back from Mike at Farner. Any questions on the bridge? We've got to put some riprap in on the south side. It's sealed up for the winter. It won't hurt anything plowing. It should last us a long time yet, 10 to 15 years before you probably have to redeck it. We'll just keep at it. If spalls develop in it, which it probably will again, that's stuff that we could probably do even in-house as far as repairs. Barbicon Avenue, it was painted last week. It was striped. And Revi design was in, and I believe Friday they finished up the paving brick. So the job is pretty much complete for now. I was talking with Michael, some concerns about the grass growing on it because it was seeded so late, it was hydro-seeded late. So we're gonna look at probably holding money back on that till next year. There's some irrigation lines that were not put back either. I talked to American Asphalt, they said they would address that in the spring too. The project ran long. I'm happy it's done. The ride is decent. There's a few manholes that are a little bit low, so we need to talk to American Asphalt about that yet. And Birch Street, we got the north side for you done. The south side, we didn't get to, but we got the north side.
Very nice.
Thank
Very
you.
nice.
Zillich Asphalt did the paving, and yeah, it needed it. They did the asphalt. Norcon did the concrete. We did some of the work in-house as far as removal and stuff. The guys rose to the occasion. They did a great job, so. Yeah, we'll see what happens. The south side will patch for now, and we'll look at and see what we're gonna do with that for next year. Budget wise.
Getting back to the bridge.
Yep.
And even for the snow plow and the plow pick up everything.
Yeah.
You won't have an ice build up or anything in there?
Because of the slope on the bridge, no. I mean, we salt that street because it's a main road. Plus, if you look at the swale, that bridge runs from north to south and it's also pitched to the southeast corner. That's how that thing is. I don't believe it's gonna give us that big of a problem as far as the ride on it. There's some bridges out there, not in Weston, but other locations where they were patched over time, or sometimes they were bridges that were poured in place and they pulled the false work on them after it was done. There used to be one, well, it's out on County Highway N, just to the west of what I call double S or Ross Avenue. That one used to have a wall up to it that was bad too. I'm not making excuses for what's out there. It's just as far as a concern for the winter, I don't believe it's gonna cause us problems with plowing. I mean, they're minor, it's just because of the way the patches were poured, that's why it rides uneven.
Could you share with us after your meeting with DOT, please?
Pardon?
After you meet DOT out there,
Yep.
let us know
Mhm.
your communication with them and what was there.
Yeah, I will.
Please. Any other question?
Okay.
All right,
Thanks.
policy discussion and recommendation. Do we have any utility connection and sewer extension agreement out there? Up.
Yeah, I guess nothing to really report on for this one. It's just an update. I'm still reaching out to some firms to see if we can get, some costs of what it would take to put a design together for this. Been in communication with the Gums, Chad Gums about, where we stand right now. Hopefully we can get something together in the next couple weeks here and have something for the next meeting.
Okay, question? All right, property easement update? Michael? I thought we voted on that, didn't we?
That was the Ryan Street one.
Okay,
So
but
this is on the other side of the river. So this is,
other question I have is, I thought anytime we're purchasing property, that should be discussed in the closed session.
so I guess the question here is, do we want to pursue an easement? Or do we want to look at outright property acquisition? Just looking at the design of the station, it's about a 75 by 75 foot square. You know, in the past, the utility would locate lift stations within the road right away, but then as we replaced them, we needed to buy additional lands so that we could place them outside the right of way or make it work. So I guess with this one being a new station on Trotzer, you know, we're looking to just buy the easement rights or the land up front so that, you know, my predecessor or my predecessor's predecessor or successor, I guess, you know, people after me wouldn't have that same issue of trying to find land. You know, there'd be enough space there for a second station in the future when the one being built or to be built would be replaced. So I guess, you know, our initial thought was we would just, you know, work with the property owner for a perpetual easement for sewer purposes. However, I think last month we kind of, and also at the village board meeting, it seemed like there was maybe a desire to outright purchase property, so we own it, and not just have an easement on somebody else's property, which then would likely utilize the eminent domain process, so that we're following acquisition processes properly. So I guess kind of just looking for direction on how you think we should proceed. You know, the homeowner, you know, property owner seems willing to work with us on it, you know, he's just looking, I guess, maybe to reduce his assessment costs a little bit by selling some land back to the village. He doesn't seem to have a preference one way or the other, but I guess before I did start talking, you know, hard dollar amounts or offers, want to know which way to proceed. Again, talking with the village assessor, market value for a water sewer land is about $2.30 a square foot. So for the area we're looking at, it's about $12,937.50. So again, so this would be the area, kind of where Apache and Trotzer meet. It's here. Residence house is kind of back in here, so their design would be able to kind of tuck it in the woods there a little bit, so it's screened and not just out in the open.
But that 12,000 something, that doesn't mean he's gonna agree with that. We don't know that.
No, I don't know. So it's not, I'm not asking you to say, yes, we agree to this dollar amount. I guess the ask is, do we try to negotiate an easement or do we just say we're going the eminent domain process and what the appraisals come back is what the appraisals come back as, and that's what we can offer.
Yeah,
You know, a lot of a private company or even public service, they used to get the easement to run their power line. Now they're moving all those lines out of the easement, out of a private property. They don't want them in there anymore. And they're gonna even reroute them to make sure they're not in the public property. So even the gas company, which is a public service again, they don't wanna put it in the private property at all. They wanna make sure for the utility line and everything else is belong to them, or they have a full authority to do whatever they wanna do in there. So.
Is it a liability issue, or is that more just the future needs issue?
I think it more liability too, because especially when it's running through their private property, they have to bring their lift and their crane and whatever work they have to do on those high power lines. They consider that just big liability. So with that, I suggest we purchase it, but again, that's what we recommend to the board, but again, it's up to you gentlemen, what you like.
My only comment is, I don't know if it's even worth what the average is, because half of that chunk is underwater, isn't it?
No, this is still all upland area. You know, I mean, their house is back here. Everything goes from the road, it slopes down to the river.
But who's the other house?
So this is I guess the neighbor.
Yep.
There's really no room on their property to put it.
But they're the one who could complain too.
Yeah, you know, so this is an outbuilding, a garage.
Yep.
You know, so, you know, we could put it, I guess, no matter what, there'd be a station there. I think, the residents would rather have the station there than, right at the end of the dead end, right in front of their house. And then this does start sloping off to the river again. So just trying to find that space in this corner that would fit, the station today as well as a station, hopefully 40, 50 years from now as a replacement. That just seems to be the best siting area for it.
That is upland there for sure.
It is upland, yes.
That's, yeah, we don't wanna purchase something that we can't.
No, if I put the contours on, this is all still fairly flat.
Mm-hmm.
And then the contours get real tight as you come down to the river, probably something like this. Follow the riverbank here.
As far as the question goes, I have an issue in principle with just starting eminent domain without any other discussion. I think that should be something for last resort. So I would move to recommend the village board approve negotiating an easement with the property owner of 6901 Trotzler Lane for a sanitary sewer lift station.
I'll second.
Discussion. Sometimes everything is a fair number. The owner may not think the same. I've been there. Because you say, okay, I'll pay you $5 per square foot, just a number.
Yep.
Discussion. Then he's gonna say, no, it's worth $10. I was gonna purchase a piece of a property. And I sent the real estate guy, I said, you go and make a deal with him. He come back and said, well, I think you better talk to him. And I said, he said, how much do you want? I want an area about 10 feet wide and 30 feet long. He said, how about $15,000? I said, well, I'm not gonna do the project, thank you, Alderson. So, what we think is a fair number, what the seller think is a fair number are two different things. All right. Any other question, comment?
I guess I'll fall back on the same statement I made last month, which is I'm not a fan of us basically utilizing land that doesn't belong to us. So I would be more in favor of acquiring the property, purchasing it for usage. The fact that the homeowner is already seeming pretty decent either way with this process is a plus, and the fact that, he seems to be okay with it from what I'm hearing. Understanding that eminent domain is an eminent domain, but my personal opinion is that's the way to go.
And the purpose for utilizing the eminent domain process is it's negotiated through essentially through a third-party appraiser. We get an appraisal that says this is how much we think the land is worth, and that's the offer to the property owner. And if they don't like it, they can get a second appraisal, and if we don't agree with the second appraisal, then there's kind of a moderator kind of solve it at with kind of a third party approach. That way too, we're not I guess trying to negotiate, per se, as far as spending public dollars, it's calculated by somebody besides just, what the village is saying we think we should offer and what, if this was a smaller, 10 by 5 foot little chunk of land, usually those, we don't worry about eminent domain, we just get the easement rights for that little piece of property, but this is a bigger square, 75 by 75, so I guess if we were to purchase it, I would recommend we go through that eminent domain process, so that we follow the state statutes and nobody can argue that we,
At this point, Michael, we just recommending.
Yep, so I just need to, I was just explaining why we'd go through that process and not just call them up and say, hey, I'm willing to give you this much money for it. What do you say?
Later in the discussion, I'll retract my second.
That, and I was going to, well, it has been made and seconded, so we have to vote down the motion and then we have to have a new motion. So then the motion has been moved and seconded. So now we have to vote on negotiating an easement. Once that's been voted on, if it's defeated, then we can begin the eminent domain motion, if that's what the committee says.
No, excuse me. What we're gonna do, we're just gonna recommend to the board to purchase the property.
Yeah.
The procedure or how they wanna purchase that is up to the board.
Right, but Mr. Mumper tried to take back his second.
Right.
So we can't do that now that it's been seconded.
Well, maybe nobody voted on. So, okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. All in favor signify by saying aye. All in favor signify by saying aye. So no motion.
Mr. Chairman, you have to give people an opportunity to vote against.
Yes.
Yep, so,
If they didn't vote, is vote against it practically, I would say.
no,
Okay,
you have to say all opposed,
For
signify.
the negative votes. You have to call for the positive as well as the negative votes.
all right. All in favor signify by saying aye. All in favor signify by saying aye.
You have to say all opposed, signify by saying nay.
Well, I was calling 3 times, and I was gonna call for up.
Okay.
All in favor of the project, say aye by signify saying aye. All right. All opposed to the project signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So I have it, thank you.
So it's been voted down.
Motion is defeated.
So,
The motion to negotiate the easement has been voted down.
Yes. I recommend the village board begin the eminent domain process to acquire the property at 6901 Troutser Lane for a sanitary sewer lift station.
I'll second.
discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it, thank you. Item 13. We talked about item 13, that's item 14. Birch Street, Cross Point to Shorey design update.
Yeah, so as a follow-up to our public information meeting, some of the biggest concerns it seemed from the residents was with the encroachment of the road on the properties on the west side. As there really is only one house on the east side of the road and it's over 100 feet from the road, they didn't seem to really have any issue with the road being, or the multi-use path in particular, being built right up to the property line. With the current design, we have 28 feet of pavement, a 10-foot multi-use path, and 11-foot ditch section. So it does push that center line of the road from being at kind of that 33-foot mark to 37 feet offset from the east right-of-way. There's a couple houses, one in particular that is very close to the road as it currently sits. So we're looking at what options we have to try to shrink that up a little bit to minimize that impact to the residents. So one of the ideas and items talked about at the meeting was to, do we need a 10-foot multi-use path? Would an 8-foot path suffice? And looking at what our other path widths are in the village of Weston, we do have 8-foot paths along Ross Avenue, north of the Eau Claire River. A lot of our other paths are 10 feet wide, like on Camp Phillips Road and Schofield Avenue. But I don't think an 8-foot wide path still meets DOT minimum for a path width. Similarly, the ditch section at 11 feet, we could go down to 9. I believe mentioned it in here. If
Yeah.
8 or 9.5 foot wide ditches in the West Elementary School neighborhood, so, you know, you're 6 inches shallower on that, I don't think, it'd be widely noticeable. It may require a little extra storm sewer, to be installed, just because the ditches likely wouldn't be as deep. So we just want to be able to make sure we have adequate capacity to carry that storm water. But just making those 2 changes alone would reduce that path with 4 feet in total, so that in essence, that encroachment would be about a 2 foot difference over what's there now. So I think it'd be pretty minor. You won't notice it once the road's dug up and put back in place. So if we were to make these changes, there's a couple, I think code changes we'd have to look at making. One is just our code references a 10-foot multi-use path. I think we'd have the ability to modify that just to say, 8 foot is allowed in certain circumstances. And we also require a minimum 6 foot terrace between the roadway and the path. There's a section in between where the Cedar Creek crosses. The attachments that pop up here.
Is that an updated one if you've moved everything, or is that the current design where the right of way and match point?
This is the current design. So I guess that 6 foot width comes into play here where the Cedar Creek crosses. Just in lieu of having to extend those culverts an extra 8 feet essentially, we'd bring the path kind of right up tight to the road and probably have some kind of decorative railing just as a barrier there, and then take the path back kind of to the property line. So these properties kind of on the south end are the ones that are like, oh, my driveway's gonna be cut back a little bit. But then in particular, this house has a very small setback from the roadway. So they'd be the ones seeing maybe the biggest encroachment with the road as it is.
I got a couple other questions.
Sure.
Why the pavement is so thick? Is that base is very bad there? You got 9-inch bracket run,
Yep.
12-inch base,
Yeah,
5-inch blacktop.
correct.
Why? How much traffic is there and how bad is the base?
Well, the base is pretty poor. It's a lot of clay, bedrock, springs.
So this is based on the frost index design and they come in with those thickness?
Correct, yeah.
Because I don't think traffic is so huge in there.
Well, the other part is we've got a subdivision that's about to be built. That'll be increasing the traffic load on that as well.
Inner Springs,
Yeah, so we're looking at,
like 80.
yeah, so that's about 100 single-family homes plus a fair amount of multifamily
On that same road.
on that road. So
Okay,
the traffic will likely more than double. On the west side, I think we only have about 60 houses in the Windermere Oak subdivision. So I guess we're anticipating, we don't want to build I don't believe we're overbuilding it. I think we're building it for what is to come. The worst thing is, I think the worser sin would be to reduce those, and then in 15 years, we've got a road that's all cracked up.
I'm saying, look at the design, see what it's gonna take. Because to me, 5-inch blacktop, holy cow, that's a runway practically, let's put it that way.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's,
the other thing is, you can consider a different design for that bicycle path. Instead of having 10 feet first of all, having 8 feet for bicyclists and pedestrian, that's not enough.
That's what I
And
was,
it's not safe.
not to interrupt, and that's all,
Go ahead.
it all goes downhill there, so you're gonna have bikes going at a pretty high rate of speed heading,
That's where I was going with that.
because you can't walk side by side on a 4-foot walk.
Right,
You need a 5-foot, and that only leaves you 3 for a bike to come by if they're behind you.
but you
That's-
can do different things. He can put the bicyclists on the road and give them 4 feet wide for coming up the hill. For going down the hill, he can go as any other motorist.
Yeah.
Because that's what he is. By doing that, you can shrink the road and everything else. And this was used on Red Mountain.
Sure. So just so everybody's aware, the 28 feet of pavement is part of the, we have a grant from the DOT on this project that says we are putting in a 28-foot wide road. But that, again, we can stripe it, so we've got a 10-foot driving lane and a 4-foot bike lane on the pavement itself. So if somebody's riding their bike, the plan is to stripe it so that it's got a bike lane and a driving lane in each direction. So I guess.
That's the exact discussion we had with the Red Mountain.
Yep.
And the Red Mountain, the bicyclists get 4 feet for going up the road. And then coming down the Red Mountain, he's on the road.
Yep.
And pedestrian and everybody else, they got their own 5 feet sidewalk and the ditch and a boulevard and everything is there. And there was issue with the amount of the land available. And that worked great.
Yeah.
So maybe you should consider.
Yeah, so I guess my thought is, if we go to the 8-foot, we'll definitely have the bike lane striped on the pavement, so it'll be a 4-foot bike lane, 10-foot travel lane, 10-foot travel lane, 4-foot bike lane, the ditch, and then the 8-foot path, and the people biking on that path would be more, mom, dad, little kid, type of situation, and the people that are aggressively biking, they'll have adequate space on the pavement. But again, we've got a $450,000 grant from the DOT saying we're building a 28-foot wide road, so.
Don't the conditions of the grant also require a pedestrian and bicycle accommodations?
Correct, yeah. Yeah,
The bicyclists consider another motorists.
yep,
This is Wisconsin law, that's all it is to.
yeah, and striping the road, it qualifies as the bike facility on that.
Yeah. Okay. What would you like? You'd like us to vote on this?
Yeah, I guess, looking for a recommendation to be able to move forward with those design changes. And then we can, I guess then, once we're good with that, we can set Becker Happy on their way to make the final plans. So it'd be to go from a 10-foot to 8-foot path and then, utilizing the 9-foot ditch section.
So there is no bicyclists on that path.
I guess there likely will be I've got a 8-year-old kid, I'm probably gonna have him bike on the path if, we go down there, but if I'm by myself biking down the hill, I'm not going on the path. I'm going on the street.
Well,
I don't know how you sign that.
They're legally allowed.
Yeah.
It's a safety issue.
But I don't know if an extra 2 feet changes that though either, if you've got mom, dad and kid riding on the bike path and, you got an extra 2 feet and you got a guy flying down there.
Even if you're making it 10 feet, still I was recommending bicyclists not on that path at all.
Yeah, we could sign it, I guess, but then I don't
Who's
know.
gonna enforce it?
Yeah,
Then you're forcing children to ride their bicycles on Birch Street.
Right. I think the aggressive.
By the law.
The aggressive riders are gonna be on the road,
yeah.
So
What's your wishes? I said my piece.
I have one other question on
Sure.
the design on that.
Yep.
That's asphalt though, right?
Correct, yep. Yeah, it's an asphalt road.
Yep.
I'll make a motion. I move to recommend the village board approve modifying the width of the multi-use path from 10 feet to 8 feet. And also approve utilizing a 9-foot ditch section between the path and the roadway for the proposed Birch Street reconstruction project.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? No discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? I have it, thank you. Item 15, Birch Street, Cross Point to Shorey, Stone Pond, additional design service proposal.
So on that same project, on the north half west side of the road, looking at utilizing a curb and gutter section instead of a ditch section, again, to kind of just minimize it. Also, the road drops off fairly steeply from the land drops off from the road. So to minimize the amount of runoff that's going on to the adjacent property owners and really not being able to fit in a good ditch section, we'd be looking at putting a curb and gutter in on that west side. By doing that, we need to utilize a storm pond to treat the stormwater runoff. So we can look at utilizing the pond that already exists within the Windermere Oak subdivision. But in order to do that, we need to run the stormwater calculations and make sure that we can submit a report to the DNR saying that we are meeting stormwater requirements. To do that, I guess that was outside the initial scope of the project, as we thought we were just gonna be utilizing the rural sections, which won't require the additional stormwater work. So we do have a proposal from Becker Hoppy for $7,350 to run those calculations, and if the pond needs to be dug deeper or made bigger, we'll have that included as part of the contract. So.
What's your wishes?
I move to recommend the village board award the Birch Street Shore to Cross Point Reconstruction additional stormwater engineering services design contract to Beecher Hoppy in the amount of $7,350.
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it, thank you. Item 16, Apache Lane design update.
I guess there's another question here. With the Apache Lane project, the original design had it as a 28-foot wide road that would have been striped just due to our the way our ordinance is written. This past summer, we modified the ordinance to remove the sidewalk requirement on local roads where it didn't exist, essentially. With this being a low volume local road where it's not a collector, it's not an arterial street. That I had a thought of, do we look at just trying to replace with what is there? It's a 24-foot wide road. Do we need to make it wider? It's an extra 14%, or 4 feet. So if we took it back to 24 feet from the 28 feet, we're looking at a 14% reduction in pavement widths. Figuring we're probably looking at maybe about a $30,000 construction savings in asphalt and base course costs. I'd recommend leaving Riverbend Road at 28 feet, just with the way, that road is a collector street, so anything done on Riverbend Road should stay at 28 feet, but Apache itself, I'm comfortable saying 24 feet is adequate. So, there would be some cost to redesign it and update the plans, but I guess prior to asking Clark Dietz, who's our consultant on that project, to do that work, just wanted to make sure that we'd be in agreement with making those modifications to the street section.
I assume the savings of not doing a 28-foot would far outweigh the cost of re-engineering.
I'm sure. I can't imagine that it's gonna be a huge cost to do that, but there'll be some cost, so.
Okay, what's your wishes?
I'll make a motion to move to recommend the village board approve reducing the pavement width on Apache Lane and Trotzer Lane to 24 feet for the Apache Lane Utility Extension Project.
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it, thank you. 17, 2022 to 2026 CIP update.
I was hoping to have some additional project information in the packet. Didn't get some of the park projects in until late last week, so we'll be looking to probably get through that exercise in December. Kind of try to, between December and January, get this CIP hashed out and adopted, so kind of know what we have moving forward here for the next several years. I guess I don't have a real update, except still a work in progress.
Okay. Future item. Monday, next meeting date, Monday, December 13, 2021 at 4:30 PM. Monday, January 10, 2022 at 4:30 PM. Monday, February 14, 2022 at 4:30 PM. Thoughts? Yes, I'm sorry.
Valentine's Day?
I don't know where else I'd rather be.
Topic for future meeting is standard engineering service contract. When is that gonna come to, Michael?
We talked with Attorney Edie last week about getting that drafted, so the, next week we'll have, or next month, we'd have a draft, format for you.
Okay. Remark from administrator, Mr. Donner is on vacation. Remark from the staff, Michael?
I guess just, Dan touched on it, our fleet foreman, resigned, so we'll be posting for a, mechanic position, likely this week. So if anybody in the audience knows a good diesel mechanic that would like to work for the Village of Weston, tell them to check the website by the end of the week.
All right.
Good.
Got nothing.
All right. Remark from committee member? Anybody? Else? No announcement?
Move to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.